Jealousy. Some say it's a sign of love. Others say it's a fire that, once lit, can burn everything in its path. But in July of 2008, in the sprawling heart of Indonesia's capital, jealousy would become the trigger for one of the most disturbing serial murder cases the country had ever seen. This is the story of Rian Jombang, the man whose disarming smile hid 11 murders. On the morning of July 12, 2008, Jakarta police received a call about something strange found along Kebagusan Raya Street in Pasar Minggu, an area normally buzzing with commuters and market sellers. But that morning, a suitcase sat abandoned beside the road. A backpack lay several meters away. A plastic bag, torn open, rested nearby. Officers arrived expecting theft, dumping, perhaps even animal remains. Nothing prepared them for what they found. Inside the suitcase were human limbs, neatly severed, arranged with unsettling precision. In the backpack, more pieces. And in the plastic bag, a torso, a crowbar skewered through the remains. Even seasoned officers recoiled. One, according to reports, vomited behind the police truck. These were not the marks of rage or chaotic violence. They were the cuts of someone who knew what they were doing. Someone practiced. Within hours, the forensics team confirmed that the victim was Hari Santoso, a 40-year-old sales manager, a father, a son, a colleague, someone who should have returned home that night, but never did. Police questioned Hari's family, retracing his routines, his habits, his acquaintances. He had no major conflicts, no dark secrets, no dangerous lifestyle. But his bank account told a different story. Money was withdrawn after his estimated time of death, 6 million rupiah. ATM footage showed a young man with dyed hair and a nervous expression. His name was Novel. He was arrested quickly. At first, he denied everything, shaking, sweating, insisting he knew nothing about any murder. But when investigators pressed harder, hours, then more hours, Novel broke. He whispered a single name: Ryan, his boyfriend, his partner. And, as police would soon learn, a man with a horrifying past. Rian was arrested on July 15th, just 3 days after the body parts were found. He was staying in an upscale housing complex in East Depok, living comfortably despite having no stable job. When officers took him in for questioning, they expected resistance. Instead, they were met with something entirely different. Rian smiled. He joked. He flirted. He laughed while answering questions about the dismembered body found 3 days earlier. Detectives exchanged glances, confused, unsettled. Something about this man felt unnervingly rehearsed, and when they asked again about Hari, Rian leaned back and gave a cheerful smirk, as if he were watching someone else's crime on TV. Only when they brought up the clean cuts found on the body, cuts far too practiced for a spontaneous murder, did his expression change. A pause, a long breath. And then, he confessed, not just to one murder, but to 7. Investigators froze. 7? Within 24 hours, they would learn the real number. Police were dispatched to Rian's childhood home in Jombang, East Java, a quiet rural village where families lived closely. Gossip flowed freely, and neighbors knew every detail of one another's lives. Or so they thought. The property looked unremarkable. White walls, a small porch, a backyard bordered by bamboo. But under the surface, beneath the soil, horrors waited. Behind the house, officers began digging. What emerged were human bones, and then entire bodies. First one grave, then a second, then a third. By the end of the search, 11 graves were uncovered. 11 victims. 11 disappearances unnoticed by neighbors. 11 stories buried in silence. Indonesia exploded in shock. TV networks ran non-stop coverage. Newspapers plastered Ryan's smiling face on their front pages. People called him Indonesia's Jeffrey Dahmer. But in many ways, he was worse. To understand the murderer, investigators dug into his childhood. Rian, full name Very Idam Henyansyah, was born on February 1, 1978, in a poor village in East Java. Outwardly, his family seemed ordinary. Inside the home, however, chaos reigned. His mother, known for her explosive temper, frequently beat him. Slaps, pushes, harsh insults, sometimes over minor annoyances, sometimes for no reason at all. One beating ended with him hitting his head on a table. By middle school, the abuse escalated until one day, after a particularly violent fight, Rian snapped. He charged at his mother with a kitchen knife. She escaped by hiding at a neighbor's house. Soon after, she admitted him to a hospital for behavioral treatment. He stayed 2 weeks. When he returned, something had changed. He was quieter, more withdrawn, more disconnected. He developed a fascination with makeup, with performing, with dressing up alone in his room. His classmates called him gentle, artistic, emotional. But beneath that softness, a storm brewed. Years later, Rian moved to Jakarta, a world away from rural Jombang. Jakarta was vibrant, modern, anonymous. Here, no one cared where he came from. No one asked questions, and no one stopped him from exploring the nightlife he had dreamed about. He slipped into the underground gay club scene, dazzled by money, glamour, and men who could give him the luxurious life he craved. He learned how to charm, how to seduce, how to manipulate. He learned that people with money could be used, and eventually disposed of. Back home in Jombang, his parents believed he was studying, but the reality was far darker. When Rian returned to Jombang years later, the glamorous city life had drained away his savings. He wanted more. He wanted luxury again. He wanted to feel admired. But there was no money, so he created a system, a deadly one. He used his appearance, his charisma, the softness in his voice. He lured men to his home, promising friendship, flirting, seduction. Once inside, the pattern repeated: invite, charm, kill, steal, bury. Neighbors saw nothing suspicious. Rian always seemed friendly, clean-cut, helpful. He buried bodies at night, claiming he was taking out garbage. No one questioned him. Not yet. Not every victim fit Rian's pattern. 2 of them were a woman, Nanak, and her 3-year-old daughter, Sylvia. Their deaths became the emotional breaking point for the public. Nanak met Rian at a gym. She was kind, friendly, non-judgmental. She treated him like a normal person, which strangely irritated him. But she wore gold jewelry, rings, bracelets, necklaces, and Rian saw money. He invited her to his home, saying he wanted her to meet his family. She arrived with snacks, Sylvia by her side. The moment their guard was down, Rian struck Nanak with a crowbar. The blow didn't kill her instantly. Sylvia screamed, trying to protect her mother. Rian turned to the child. The scene became too horrifying for many forensic officers to ever speak of again. He stripped Nanak of her jewelry, buried both bodies in a single shallow grave. For weeks, no one knew where they had gone, until the backyard was dug up. The investigation revealed something disturbing. In 2007, a year before Hari's murder, a man named Aldo had been found dead in a sugarcane field. 3 innocent men were arrested. Police forced confessions through torture. No forensic testing was done. The case was closed quickly. Then, during interrogation, Rian casually confessed that he killed Aldo. Not for money, not for jealousy, but because he insulted him. Yet Aldo's case was never added to the official list of 11 victims. The system had failed not once, but twice. It failed the innocent men tortured into confessing. It failed the family who lost Aldo. It failed the country by missing the warning signs of a serial killer. Rian's trial became one of the most watched in Indonesian history. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, some praying, some shouting insults. Inside, Rian appeared calm. He wore traditional Muslim clothing, a kopia hat and sarong, as if trying to reinvent himself. He prayed. He wrote long, emotional letters. He even announced plans to release a music album. Reporters called him the singing serial killer. His best-selling autobiography, written behind bars, portrayed him not as a sadistic murderer, but as a misunderstood man seduced by Jakarta nightlife. But no amount of reinvention could erase the truth. On April 6, 2009, the Supreme Court delivered its verdict, death sentence. Rian showed no visible reaction, just a soft nod. Today, Rian remains alive, locked in Gunung Sindur prison, a high-security facility in West Java. Indonesia's death penalty requires a long bureaucratic process. Appeals, petitions, legal reviews. Years pass, days blur into nights. Executions move slowly, and Rian waits. He sings in his cell. He writes. He gives occasional interviews. He still receives letters from curious followers. Some even send money. To this day, many Indonesians debate who he truly was. A charming man warped by trauma? A product of abuse and neglect? A psychopath born, not made, or simply evil? The documentary closes on his empty childhood home, abandoned, crumbling, overtaken by weeds. Children play outside, unaware of the horrors once buried beneath their feet. In the end, the story of Rian Jombang is a reminder of how easily a smile can lie, and how long darkness can hide in plain sight.